2K dropped the second player ratings update for NBA 2K25. Today is November 21st, 2024. As always, I am Pete Toll, aka PT Sports 84, back to give you all the latest breakdown of the ratings update. So let's dive right into it. We've got a lot of player ratings changes, some badge updates, position changes, and more. So going to the 76ers right off the bat, Joel Embiid, subject of controversy as of late as the basically the call out per reports came. He drops -1 to a 95 overall. Really struggled since coming back, sitting out a good portion of the season so far. We also get a healthy Tyrese Maxey. His injury was removed in this one. Paul George goes -1 to an 88 overall. He is now probably out for extended time, hyperextension of the same knee in which he missed time previously. So hopefully, as a Sixers fan, I am going to say I would like them to keep their first round pick. If it's top 6, it stays with Philly. If it's not top 6, it goes to OKC. I would like to see, if Embiid's not healthy, just shut it down. It sounds weird and crazy, but go for a, top pick. I like Ace Bailey personally, but that's just my analysis there. But on with the ratings, Jared McCain gets a +10 to an 83 overall. He has been hooping. So looking at Jared McCain, +10 overall. He also gets badge increases. I believe it's +10. I did not verify. I want to make a disclaimer with that. But look out for the Real 2K Insiders analysis. Go to Operation Sports. Look at the thread that I put up for the second ratings update. He always posts in there. John, if you're listening, maybe you'll, because there's so many badge updates, maybe you'll put out a video. I personally always enjoy those. I know a lot of fans do as well. If you have time, I know work is crazy for you, but hopefully that can be done. Kelly Oubre Jr., -1 to a 78 overall, gets a position change to small forward. Technically, he kind of backs up Paul George, but now that George is out, potentially goes in the starting lineup. So Yershon Yabusele, +2 to a 78 overall. I actually have him on the sheet here as a 77. Let me change that really quickly before I go any further, because I will forget, and I try to be accurate on the list as possible. So there we go. We have Andre Drummond, who has really struggled this year, -1 to a 76 overall. Eric Gordon also struggling, -2 to a 74. Reggie Jackson, -1 to a 73. And then rounding it out, Ricky Council IV, -1 to a 72 overall. Going over to the Milwaukee Bucks, Dame Lillard goes -1 to an 89. Brook Lopez +1 to an 80. Taurean Prince had a bad game last game, but obviously, for those that don't know, 2K kind of cuts off the NBA action with Tuesday's games. So anything from Wednesday, they don't count. +1 for Taurean Prince, though, to a 77. AJ Green gets a +3 to a 77 overall. Andre Jackson kind of splits time at the shooting guard, starts a good bit of games, +3 to a 75 overall. Gary Trent Jr. drops quite a bit, struggling this season, -3 to a 74. DeLon Wright, -1 to a 73. While Ryan Rollins, who was playing well before his shoulder injury, goes +2 to a 73. Don't know how long he's going to be out. Basically, his shoulder popped out and popped back in. Those can be complicated. And then Marjan Beauchamp, who is on the trade block, -1 to a 71 overall. Going over to the Chicago Bulls, +1 for Zach LaVine to an 85, +2 for Nikola Vucevic to an 85. Kobe White going +1 to an 83. Josh Giddey, who has looked really bad overall, -2 to a 79. Jalen Smith drops as well, -1 to a 76. Ayu Dosunmu, -1 to a 76. Torrey Craig, who was playing a good bit of backup center, started last night at power forward, but he goes -1 to a 73. And then down here is Julian Phillips, +1 to a 72. We get a position change for Matas Buzelis to power forward. Going to the Cleveland Cavaliers, we get a change for them. We get Evan Mobley, +1 to an 88. Darius Garland, +1 to an 87. We get Karis LeVert, +1 to an 80. Ty Jerome went off last night. I believe he had 27 points. Was it 25 in the first half? He ended up going +4 to a 79 overall. Big jump for him. He's looked great in the system under Kenny Atkinson. Georges Niang goes +2 to a 75 overall. Sam Merrill -1 to a 74 overall, excuse me. Jalen Tyson +2 to a 72 overall. Going over to the Boston Celtics, they actually remedied their issue from last update. Drew Holiday now goes -1 to an 86. Previously, he was tied with Derek White, and if you watch the Celtics, Derek White has definitely been the better player. Definitely an all-star at this stage. Peyton Pritchard goes +1 to an 81 overall. Namias Keita +2 to a 76 overall. He's basically carved out a role as a big man. Don't understand why 2K will not put up Sam Hauser in rating. He definitely deserves a bump, but he still hasn't gotten one. Who did get a bump down, -4. Big drop for Xavier Tillman Sr. We get a couple position changes for them. Jared Walsh to small forward. Baylor Shireman to shooting guard. Going over to the Clippers, Avasa Zubac drops -1 to an 83. Chris Dunn shifted over to starting shooting guard. He's +2 to a 78. We also have a position change for Norman Powell to small forward. Amir Coffey has been playing, pretty decent as a backup role, +2 for him to a 76. I believe he's starting now because Powell is out. We get Terrence Mann shifted to a -174 overall. Nick Batum -1 to a 73. Kai Jones gets a bump, +1 to a 71 overall. And then Jordan Miller gets a +2 to a 70 overall. Memphis Grizzlies. Jaren Jackson Jr. gets a +1 to an 88 overall. We get Zach Edey +4 to a 79 overall. I believe he gets 7 badges added. Like I said, the Real 2K Insider will be able to dive in and let us know which ones were in there. Santi Aldama +1 to a 78 overall. Scottie Pippen Jr. has played well this year, especially filling in for Ja Morant. 77 overall, +1 for him. Jalen Wells gets a bump, +1 to a 76 overall. I believe he gets 2 badges added to him. Jake LaRavia +2 to a 76 as well. Who drops is Luke Kennard, kind of struggling coming back. Kennard's kind of played a little bit of a backup point guard role as well, so interesting there, -175. Jay Huff gets a +1 to a 75. We then dive over to the Atlanta Hawks. Trae Young, struggling with the shooting this year, -1 to an 88 overall. The assists are there, just the shooting's not. Dyson Daniels gets a large jump, +4 for him. Has really been really fantastic defensively. Even put out good scoring output a couple games ago. I believe it was like 23 points, so looking pretty decent. Who's looked really good when he's healthy is DeAndre Hunter, +1 to an 81 overall. The knee isn't healthy, so we'll see how long he can last back and forth between the injury report and not being injured. Onyeka Okongwu goes -1 to an 80. Then we have Zachary Ricochet, +1 to a 78 overall. He's been okay, better defensively than he's been offensively. He kind of plays a little passively offensively within the system, but he also isn't shooting it extremely well either, especially from three. Garrison Matthews gets a bump +1 to a 75. Couple of position changes for them. Larry Nance to center, David Roddy to power forward. Jumping over to the Miami Heat, Tyler Hero goes +1 to an 86 overall. He's been carrying them. Jimmy was out, but now he's back. We get Haywood Highsmith +2 to a 77 overall. He's really looked good. He was starting for Jimmy Butler for a little while, and now he's back kind of playing power forward. We get a bump for Pell Larson to 73 overall +1. And then Terry Rozier is another one that's dropped -2 to a 78 overall. Rozier has struggled. I didn't like the Rozier trade when they made it just for the system. I think he's more of a six-man than a starter, but that's just me. Charlotte Hornets benched at the end of the last game, but not reflected here. +1 to an 89 overall for LaMelo Ball. We get Trey Mann with a position change to point guard, no rating change though. We get, let's see, let me change really quickly something on the sheet. I put a rating in wrong. Didn't mean to do that. Let's see. All right, got that fixed. It was Cody Martin, not like Caleb. I don't know why I typed Caleb, but Cody Martin goes +1 to a 77 overall. What's interesting is Cody actually, in my opinion, has played a little bit better than Josh Green, who's starting. So we'll see how long that lasts. Seth Curry -1 to a 74 overall. Taj Gibson +1 to a 72. Vasily Micic struggled really bad this year. -1 to a 72 overall. And then Musa Diabate goes +2 to a 71 overall. I thought he could go +2, or +3 actually to a 72, but just me. Utah Jazz, Lauri Markkanen drops -1. John Collins has been very good lately, +2 for him to an 84. Jordan Clarkson, good as well. He gets a bump +2 to a 79. Colin Sexton is at a 79 as well. I did not do a good job of writing down correctly on the forum. Let me fix one thing. Because Colin Sexton, I don't know why I had it in my sheet that he went up. He actually did not go up. So let me change that really quickly. Who did go up quite a bit, Kyle Filipowski, to a 76 overall. Big jump for him. He's played well. +5 jump for him. He gets 3 badges added. Drew Eubanks, +1 to a 75 overall. Then we get down below, we have a new addition to the roster in David Jones. He takes Jason Preston's spot as a two-way player. He's more of a defender, kind of hybrid wing. Johnny Juzang gets a +1 as well for the Jazz. Sacramento Kings, De'Aaron Fox finally makes it to the 90 overall club, +2 for him. Had a 60-point outing and a 49-point outing, so well-deserved there. Kevin Huerter, +1 to a 77. Position change to point guard for Malik Monk. He played the backup role before he got hurt. Shooting guard's been all Keon Ellis and Kevin Huerter. Trey Lyles, +1 to a 75. Jordan McLaughlin, -1 to a 73. And then Doug McDermott, -1 to a 71. Going over to the Knicks, Jalen Brunson drops -1 to a 92. Karl-Anthony Towns goes +2 to a 91. He's looked really good in the system. OG Anunoby, +1 to an 85. Cam Payne goes +2 to a 77. Tyler Kolek has looked good in some spot minutes. +4 for him, 74 overall. I believe he gets 4 badges added. And Ariel Porty goes +2 to a 70 overall. Those that didn't notice position changes for Anunoby, Bridges, and Hart. They all rotate where they're supposed to be within the rotation. Los Angeles Lakers, LeBron James +1. What he's doing at his age is incredible. JJ Redick has really turned this team around. The Lakers are actually fun to watch now. The system looks good. Who did get a position change? Austin Reeves to point guard. We get him starting there, so good change there. We get Dalton Connect, the big mover here, +7. Anybody that's watched him can see that he really did well in the last game. Just was on fire with 37 points. I personally really enjoy watching Dalton Connect play. He just, basically just looks unfazed throughout the game. So I definitely enjoy that. I'm not a Lakers fan by any means, but definitely watching the new system. I'm a JJ Redick fan, so always rooting him on. Speaking of D'Angelo Russell, -2 to a 78 for him. He's actually flourished in the backup role, so I could see him going up at some point if his scoring output can go back up. Cam Reddish, +1 for him to a 74. Excuse me. Jackson Hayes gets a bump, +1 to a 74. Max Christie as well, +1 to a 74. And then Gabe Vincent has struggled. He gets a position change to shooting guard, goes -1. Who hasn't struggled is Franz Wagner of the Orlando Magic as we jump over to them. +2 for him to an 88 overall. We get a bump for Goga Batazde. He's really kind of filled in well for the Magic as Wendell Carter Jr. We don't know how long he's going to be out. Plantar fasciitis can be a tricky thing as far as time frames and things like that. So we'll see what happens there. But Goga Batazde goes to a 78. And then we get Anthony Black, who's played phenomenal. Eventually, it's going to be Black as the starting point guard, I think. Suggs could even move back to the 2 if they wanted to move Caldwell Pope to the bench eventually. We'll see. But Anthony Black +1 to a 77. It was +5 for Goga Batazde, by the way. Big jump for him. Who struggled this year? Cole Anthony, -2 to a 74 overall. Gary Harris, -1 to a 73 overall. The news just broke. Luka Doncic's going to miss some time with a wrist injury. He drops -1 to a 96. No love for Kyrie Irving, who's been really good lately. Derek Lively goes +1 to an 82, while Gafford also goes +1 to an 82. Klay Thompson has dropped -1 to an 80. PJ Washington gets a bump to a 79. And then all the way down here to the bottom, Maxi Kleber goes -2 to a 72 overall. He's kind of was starting for PJ Washington, has struggled this year. Going over to the Brooklyn Nets, Dennis Schroeder goes -1 to an 82, while Cameron Johnson goes +2 to an 82. Zaire Williams goes +1 to a 76 overall. Jalen Wilson goes +1 to a 75 overall. Going over to the Denver Nuggets, Jamal Murray gets a drop, -2 to an 83 overall. He struggled this year. Christian Brown goes +1 to an 81 overall. Russell Westbrook, -1 to a 78. And then Peyton Watson gets a position change to power forward with a +2 to a 77 overall. Indiana Pacers, this team has really not looked like themselves whatsoever. I think part of it is the synergy between Ben Mathurin not being Buddy Hield, who Tyrese Halliburton relied on for a lot of clean shots last year. Pascal Siakam's kind of a wonky fit with Halliburton. You notice Siakam plays better with McConnell than he does with Halliburton. Um, can kind of blame it on Halliburton's back as well, but I think just the overall synergy and how Halliburton plays, it doesn't mesh well with Ben Mathurin. Um, is this interesting because Toppin and Jarris Walker seem to fit better with Halliburton than Mathurin and Siakam. Speaking of Ben Mathurin, he gets a +3 bump to an 83 overall. Jarris Walker also gets a bump +2 to a 77 overall. Quentin Jackson, who's been in the rotation as the backup shooting guard, has gotten a bigger bump +4 to a 72 overall. He's looked really good in that role. So we also get a position change for Johnny Furphy to shooting guard. He was playing over Quentin Jackson before he got hurt. Going over to the New Orleans Pelicans. Speaking of hurt, who is hurt is Jose Alvarado, but he did get a +1 bump to a 79 overall. It looks like CJ McCollum and DeJounte Murray will be coming back fairly soon. Probably longer absences for Herb Jones, Alvarado, and Zion, but that just seems to be what the luck of the Pelicans, so to speak. Yves Missy has played really, really well. Missy is 77 overall +4, gets a 6 badge upgrade. Brandon Boston has had 5 or 6 so-so games or not really good games, and then 3 really phenomenal games. He does get a +4 to a 77. Big bump for him. Jeremiah Robinson Earl gets a +2 bump to a 75 overall. We have a new addition to the roster. Elfrid Payton is back in the NBA. Really quickly, he's a 73 overall. He will get a face update in the next patch. They took him out because of licensing reasons, so as you can see, he's a generic player there. Trey Jemison gets a +1 to a 73 overall. Antonio Reeves had a breakout game last game, +4 to a 72 overall. I believe he gets a badge upgrade as well. Daniel Tice drops -2 to a 71 overall. Potential All-Star in Cade Cunningham, +1 to an 88 overall. Jalen Duren gets a +1 to an 82, while Jaden Ivey gets a +1 to an 81. Interesting what a year makes under JB Bickerstaff compared to Monty Williams for Jaden Ivey. Ivey has just looked so much more comfortable this year. Malik Beasley, +3 to a 78 overall. Big jump for him. We get Ron Holland getting a +1 bump to a 74. Pretty good defense for him so far. Wendell Moore had a couple games where he played decent. +2 for him to a 72 overall. We get the Toronto Raptors. We get a bump for Jakob Poeltl. We get a +2 for him. He should have already been a +2 previous, but I digress. OJ Agbaji gets a +2 to a 78 overall. He's been starting at power forward since Scotty Barnes has been out with injury. Chris Boucher gets a bump to +2 to a 77 overall. +2 for Jonathan Mogbo with 3 badges, I believe. He goes +2 to a 75. And then we get Jamison Battle, well-deserved +2, 72 overall bump. He was playing well. He's kind of sporadic here and there now, but he's playing well previously. Going over the Houston Rockets, speaking of sporadic, Jalen Green only goes down 1 despite 17 points a game, 24% three-point shooting, and then just not looking great. Spotty shot selection as always, but who has been phenomenal for them, +2, Alperen Sengun to an 87 overall. Amen Thompson, +1 to an 81. Also Tari Eason, +1 to an 81. Steven Adams gets dropped to a 75, -4. Big drop for him. He's more in a mentor role. Surprised Cam Whitmore didn't get a drop. He hasn't really done anything this year. And then Aaron Holiday finally gets a +1 bump to a 74. Going over to the Spurs, well, we don't know what's going on with Wemby's knee. He's had a sore knee, so he's missed a couple games. Keldon Johnson stepped up last game, but I guess 2K thought different. -1 for him, 78 overall. Malachi Branham, not quite sure how he bumped +2 to a 78 overall, but okay. Stephon Castle gets a +2, +8 badges, going to a 75 overall. He's looked pretty good. A lot better shooting the ball than a lot of people thought. Sandro Mamakalashvili goes +2 to a 75 overall. Phoenix Suns, Yusuf Nurkic has not looked great at all. He goes -1 to a 79. Tyus Jones gets a bump +1 to a 79. We get Josh Okogie +3 to a 77 overall. Not quite sure what that's about. Monte Morris +1 to a 76. And then Oso Iguodaro goes +4 to a 72 overall. He gets a 3-badge upgrade, I believe, as well. Ryan Dunn has looked good, but, I thought he could have gone up, but he didn't. OKC Thunder. They get Isaiah Hartenstein back. Much needed. He'll probably start the next game with Aaron Wiggins moving to the bench, so that way Jalen Williams can go back to power forward. Speaking of Jalen Williams, +1 for him to an 87 overall. Alex Caruso is back in the rotation. He's healthy. -1 for him to an 80 overall. Hassan Wallace goes -2 to a 75 overall. He's been playing off guard. Not hitting shots like he was last year. Kenrich Williams back healthy as well, kind of playing the backup center role. +1 to a 74 overall. And then AJ Mitchell looks like he got a 2-badge upgrade. He gets a +3 to a 72 overall. Kind of splits minutes between 3 spots: small forward, shooting guard, and point guard, depending on the need. Minnesota Timberwolves, just 2 changes for them. We do get some position changes in DiVincenzo to shooting guard, and then Nickeil Alexander-Walker to small forward. But ratings change-wise, we get Mike Conley -1 to a 79, and then Dante DiVincenzo -1 to a 78. Portland Trailblazers, finally we get a reduction for DeAndre Ayton. When he was playing, he didn't look that great. Now, is he really injured or is he not? I don't know, because it's just funny to me that he had like a thumb injury and then like it didn't look that bad when he was sitting on the bench. So who knows? He goes -2 to an 81 overall, while Robert Williams III looked great when he plays, +1 to an 81 overall. Anthony Simons goes -1 to an 80. Shaden Sharp goes +1 to an 80. And then Jeremy Grant goes -1 to an 80. Denny Advia, playing a backup role off the bench as the 6-man, goes -1 to a 78. Jonathan Clingan gets a +3 to a 77 overall, +5 badges. We also get some position changes. Delano Banton to backup point guard. Chimani Kamara to small forward. I think personally more so Jeremy Grant's kind of playing small forward, and then Kamara is playing power forward, but maybe I'm off on that. Blazers fans, you can let me know. This is kind of what I'm watching, because I'm looking at Kamara and where he is in the post as far as on offense. He kind of dunker spot outside the 3-point line. He kind of flips between the two, and then he goes and gets rebounds more than Jeremy Grant. So I would personally put him at power forward and then Grant at small forward. But that's just me. Going over the Golden State Warriors, it's a shame the news came out about DeAnthony Melton, ACL surgery, likely out, all the way until, Christmas of next year, potentially. We'll see. Rating changes for them. Buddy Hield drops -2 to an 82 overall. He was on fire for a while, kind of cooled down a little bit as we knew it was going to happen. Jonathan Kuminga, position change to small forward. He goes -1 to a 79 overall. We get a +1 for Moses Moody to a 78, +2 for Lindy Waters, who's been starting at the shooting guard spot, because of his shooting. He goes +2 to a 77. Then we get Brandon Podziemski -2 to a 76 overall. Gary Payton II also get a position change to small forward. Last but not least, the Washington Wizards. Jordan Poole drops -1 to an 83. Bilal Coulibaly -1 to an 80. Kaishan George played well. Not playing as much now, but he was playing well for a while. +1 to a 74 overall. And then last but not least, Jared Butler, +1 to a 73 overall. So overall in this update, big jumps for Jared McCain and Dalton Connect. Fair amount of badges updated in this one. Just from my quick glance, there's a lot of different players. I'll let the Real 2K Insider cover those badges for more, as I mentioned earlier in the video. He does a great job on the deep dives, coupled with stats to back those position changes or badge changes up. We also got a lot of position changes, as I mentioned in this video. Might have missed a few as I'm diving through the roster, but overall, this was a larger ratings update just in time for Thanksgiving next week. Please, if you haven't already, hit the thumbs up button. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel as well. Hopefully having some more content out over the holidays. Going to be a little bit slower for me over the next week just because of family time with the holidays, my son being out of school as well, so entertaining him, and then, some work stuff also have to get done. So less time for videos. I will, however, definitely 100% commit to a video next Friday when the PC patch comes out. Hopefully we're still able to edit rosters at that point, add some players in. Maybe we get some different players in. If we can't, I'll still do a video and explain that it's no longer active. But I'm hoping that I can have something out for you guys then. Also, I hope at that point to be able to finish my 96-97 roster and get that going. I still need to make some changes that I can't currently make because of that delay of the patch on PC. But hopefully next weekend I'll be able to have that out in a version 1, and that way you guys can enjoy that. But until then, everybody, happy Thanksgiving. Stay safe if you're traveling. If you're with the family, enjoy the meal, the fellowship with the family, things like that. So please share this video with everybody if you can. That really helps the algorithm. Until next time, stay safe and take care.